Now, all right. Welcome everybody. This is another episode in our new series with M Sister Studios podcast and also the video channel. I have here with me today Mr. Todd Youngblood. He is, and again, he can correct me if I'm wrong, he is the board president for the Colorado's Veteran Project, which we will be creating a lot of content to help raise awareness for what they're doing and some upcoming events that they have going on. So Todd, thank you for being here with us. I'm going to hand it over to you so you can introduce yourself, give us a little background, and we shall go from there.
Well, thanks for having me today. It's a pleasure to talk to you about the Colorado Veterans Project and our upcoming Ruck March. We appreciate you guys putting together some content for us and helping us promote the event. It's an important event. We utilize this event to help raise funds to help veterans nonprofits in Colorado, and it's actually become the largest single day food drive in the entire state of Colorado. So on a typical year, we get over 50,000 pounds of food donated in this single event, and that all goes to veteran families and homeless veterans and veterans in need. So it's a great event to really help make a large impact in the veterans community.
That's awesome. Do you have, now since this is a veterans project, do you have any experience before you joined? Are you former military? Did you have family members? Like what made you connect with this project, either on a personal or like professional level?
I am a Navy veteran. So I was
Nice.
4 years active duty in the Navy, and then I did another 4 years in the Army Reserves after that. So I do have a connection to the military. Moving to Denver, Colorado, I was looking for another nonprofit to be a part of. I've always done a lot of volunteer work and tried my best to give back to my community that I'm living in. And I really felt like the Colorado Veterans Project was doing some really amazing things. It sponsors the Colorado or the Denver Veterans Day events, so the parade and the festival in downtown Denver. We put on a Memorial Day run. We put on a 4th of July fun run called the Freedom 4-Miler. And just through their events and outreach into the veterans community, they really make a huge impact and raise a ton of awareness and some pretty significant money to donate back to the veteran-focused nonprofits throughout the state.
Awesome. Before we dive more, if you hear my dogs, I apologize. But before we dive a little more deeper into the Colorado Veterans Project, I'm curious because you said you're a Navy vet, and I'm also too. I started active duty in the Navy and in the reserves right now. What was your job or your rate?
I was a cook, so I was responsible for all the terrible food you eat on your ship all the time.
I don't know if the correct word is thankfully, but I luckily have never been on a ship. I was an MA, so okay. They always try to, the recruiter would be like, oh, if you want to see the world, join the Navy because of all the different ports and ships that you can be on and stuff. But being an MA, that 9 times out of 10 like never happened. We were, a lot of our places we could go would be bases, and there are more ship roles or ship billets, to my understanding, popping up because they're just selecting MAs to actually do their jobs as security. Sure. But I just I remember the food from boot camp and stuff, and I mean it's probably gotten better, but I still hear see horror stories of the food on ships and stuff. So since you were a cook in the Navy, did you do the same thing in the Army Reserves, or did you switch?
No, I had a different role. I got into the Army, and I was actually an air conditioning repair person. So I was attached to a maintenance battalion in the Army Guard, and they sent me to school, and I learned how to fix air conditioners in the Army.
When you were both in active duty and in the reserves, did you deploy anywhere? Did you go anywhere? Like, where have you been in your military career?
So I've been around the world a little bit. We did a Westpac. For the first 2 years of my Navy career, I was in Adak, Alaska, which is in the Aleutian Islands. So I think Adak is the 3rd or 4th island from the end. On a clear morning, you could see the coastline of Russia. So we were way out there. Great experience in ADAC. Beautiful country up there. It's a Navy air base. It used to be an air facility. I think they've since kind of mothballed the base, but it was a really interesting line of duty because it's just such a remote duty station and such a unique place to live. I mean, not many people live in the Aleutian Islands. The second part of my tour was being stationed out of the naval shipyards in Bremerton, Washington, on board the USS Arkansas. So I was on the Arkansas for a couple of years. We did one Westpac. We deployed to Iraq for about 6 months, doing some stuff just after after Desert Storm. So in between Desert Storm and Operation Iraqi Freedom, we were a unit that went back into Iraq and floated in the Persian Gulf and ran some military operations against Iraq at that time. But overall, I got to see a lot of Southeast Asia. Got to go to Australia. We went up to Canada a couple times. Really had a great time just seeing the world.
I'm jealous that you've been to Australia. That's like one of the top places for me to go, that I want to go to explore and stuff. And I think there's a lot more opportunities, at least to my knowledge, of the Navy and stuff going over there. So that's pretty cool. Did you go anywhere in the Army Reserves, or did you just more like stay put?
We did not get deployed. I transitioned out of the Army Guard just before Afghanistan and Iraq really started getting hot and heavy. The unit I was with was a maintenance battalion, so we were supposed to go to Germany 1 year for deployment, but I didn't get to go with the unit because that was the final semester of my senior year of college, so I had to bow out of that deployment. But really, I just went across the U.S. just doing some training exercises and some advanced training stuff.
Gotcha. So when you left the Navy, went to the Army Reserve, did you do anything job rise related to what you did, and or did you just go to your job and then a few years later join the Colorado's Veterans Project?
Nothing. Not a lot that I did in the Navy or the Army really translated to day-to-day life. I went to college just while I was in the Guard. I used the GI Bill and then some additional funds that, tuition assistance through the National Guard to pay for my college. So that was my core motivator to go in the military, was to try to walk out of school without $100,000 in student loan debts. So it worked out really well for me, though. Between the Navy College Fund and the tuition assistance through the Guard, I got most of my school paid for and got a degree in computer science, which is completely different than cooking or air conditioning repair. The volunteerism really came as a part of meeting some people and just in my college town that I was going to, that were just really all about giving back to the community. Just some individuals that were just community leaders that had always volunteered for a lot of different organizations and really just spent a lot of their extra time helping others, and that just really was impactful for me, and I really wanted to follow that same path.
Was there any, besides the people that you met in your college town, like you said, that were making an impact in your community, was there any significant moment where you knew that you wanted to do and help out your community, or was it just a bunch of little things adding up to your decision?
I had a gentleman named Bill Mishaw. He was an older retired guy, and in retirement he was probably working harder than he ever did with his full-time job, just really trying to help out and be a part of the community. And I got to be friends with him, and he was kind of a mentor for me, and really just inspired me to give back to my community. So he was probably one of the bigger motivators to really contribute back to my community.
Now when you started to contribute back to your community, did you immediately make your focus towards veterans, or was there other entities that you worked on before you decided to go the veteran route?
So I was living in Durango, Colorado at that time, and I was a part of the Kiwanis Club, and then on a couple of other boards in that community, really helping to organize some festivals and some events, some marathons and whatnot that were taking place in that community to help raise monies for different nonprofits. The nonprofits I was primarily working for were more focused on helping children in need. And it was we actually got to start the Boys and Girls Club in Durango, Colorado. We had to, I was on the board that initially set up a cool science museum. It's called the Durango Discovery Museum, and a really cool science and technology museum that was focused on helping educate kids on science and tech. So, just a different focus from the veteran community up here. But when I moved to Denver, I did notice right away, like there's a significant homeless population, significantly more than what was in Durango. And, you drive around and see the signs of, veteran in need, Vietnam vets, all these different Afghan vets, whatnot. And I started reading more about the needs of veterans, impacted just after being in combat. One of our big realities is, as a country, we've never been in active combat for this long. I mean, when you think about 9/11 and just how quickly we, started wars with that, within Iraq, within Afghanistan. I mean, we've literally been a war, for more than 20 years. And while we don't read about it so much every day, I'm tied into some of my friends who are in the Special Forces group up here, and they're busy. I mean, they're doing a lot of work overseas. And when you have that continual cycle of men and women that are just cycling through combat roles and combat environments, it just really creates a different need in the veterans community. I mean, we've seen it at different scales with Vietnam, Korea, Iraq, Afghanistan. Even if you look at Vietnam compared to what we're going through today, it's just such a condensed time period. It was a shorter time period, a lot more guys cycling through combat, and some very significant combat. But we're having to build up new infrastructure to support new men and women coming back from active combat roles on a monthly, weekly basis. Today, over the last 20 years. So it's a different time in our history for sure.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I never really experienced a homeless population before. And so moving out to Washington now and seeing it, it's totally different, and it's kind of eye-opening, but also too, like you said, that a good chunk of the homeless population are in fact veterans that are returning home from war. And and I go out to the store or something, and I see the signs. There's a few here, but recently, where'd I go? I went down to Vancouver, Washington, and I see it a lot, and it's just very sad. And it makes me want to help and do more, because you don't know what they went through or what they're going through unless you actually talk to them. And it's being a veteran, myself, it's kind of sad because they're veterans. Some of them are veterans also, and it's just I want to help out a brother or sister who's been through the same thing essentially that myself and you have been through. Sure. So when did you then, so after you moved down to Denver and saw all the homeless populations and saw where you could help out, when did you join with the Colorado Veterans Project, or wasn't even created when you made the move and made this decision to help out the veteran community?
Yeah, so the Colorado Veterans Project had been around for, I think, 3 or 4 years before I got involved in the organization. And I'd actually reached out because I thought, hey, here's an organization that's benefiting veterans. They're putting on events, and I'd done some event management, activities and roles in the past. So I thought I'd be a good fit to help out as a volunteer. And so I reached out to them, and they were like, sure, bring it on. We always need more help. Anybody that's motivated and organized is more than welcome to help out with our cause and help us put on these events. So I reached out, and I got involved just in their first Veterans Day event a few years ago, like 3 years ago. I think this will be my fourth Veterans Day with them coming up. But, just helped organize part of the parade, part of the festival, part of the run, and really just enjoyed it, and really just enjoyed being back in the veterans community. I mean, when you hear the term, it's like a brotherhood, sisterhood, it's like a family, there's a lot of truth to that. I hope you had the experience where you've made some lifelong friends through the Navy, and you've been able to maintain those relationships since, I guess, you're still inactive or in the reserves. But some of my closest friends are still ex-Navy vets that I served with.
Hmm. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Especially even if, for anyone that you didn't, have a friendship with or didn't know, I feel like whenever you meet someone and you get to start talking to them and you're like, oh, by the way, I was in the military, you're like, oh, and then you just connect and you can relate on like a bunch of whole different levels that maybe someone that you're friends with may not, necessarily be able to if they're meeting the same person, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily have to be someone who's a veteran. I recently has been meeting through new people through my job, and even military spouses, they like, since they are there with them, they get it. So which is pretty cool. Now, can you explain to us what exactly is the Colorado's Veterans Project, and what was their mission starting off before you joined up with them to help them?
Sure. I think the mission has always been to raise pride and patriotism, around veterans causes throughout the state of Colorado. Um, we do this by, sponsoring events, multiple events throughout the year, and really trying to create an environment where civilians and military and veterans can all come together, at a run, at a parade, at a festival, really just have an opportunity to mix, mingle, and get to know each other on a deeper level. And that seems to be so much of the, initial challenges. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about who the people are that serve or have served in our military, and just putting everybody in the same room, putting everybody on the same race course, really goes a long way to help people get to know each other, kind of break down those barriers and really understand at a higher level, like the needs of the veterans community. Because I've always felt like it's a great community, and more often the individuals that have stumbled or fallen down or whatnot are more looking for a hand up than a handout. And that's what our program really is about, is supporting veterans focused nonprofits in the state through the revenue we generate from our events and donations that we get, so that they can focus on their mission. And that's probably one of the biggest things that we've figured out since we started the Colorado Veterans Project, is that there's probably 350 plus nonprofits that are focused on different veterans issues in the state of Colorado. And they're really good about providing services, whether it be equine therapy, counseling for mental health issues, job placement, military to civilian transition, job placement stuff, addiction counseling, homeless services, people who are food insecure and getting them the right food. I mean, there really is a variety of issues within our community, and those organizations are great at providing that in service, but they're not necessarily great at promoting their own nonprofit, so spreading the word, making sure the veterans in the community know who they are and what they offer. And they're not, they could always use more help with fundraising. Every nonprofit can use another friend to help them raise money. And that's what we are to these nonprofits, is we're a friend that helps them fund some of their initiatives throughout the year, so they can have a bigger impact in the veterans community.
Gotcha. So what are some of the other nonprofits does the Colorado Veterans Project support and help raise money for?
We have a ton of different groups that we work with. We work with the local VFW Post 1, which is the first VFW post in the state of Colorado. We're partnered with the Special Forces Foundation for the upcoming Memorial Day Run and March. We work with Soldiers Angels, which is a great organization that provides food to veterans in need. We work with the National Guard Foundation here in Colorado. We did about a $25,000 donation to them this year to help buy food for National Guard families in need, Reserve and Air Guard and Reserve families in need. We did another donation to a group that provides veteran housing in Colorado Springs. So we did a $30,000 donation to those guys so they can open up a couple additional houses and get them remodeled and up to date so they can house an additional. They're doing 12 veterans a year. They have the ability to house 12 veterans at a time. So, it's all over the place. There's the Cohen Clinic down here that provides a lot of mental health services and other medical services to these guys. There's Healing Warriors that does therapy for a lot of veterans to help them get through injuries, whether it be physical or mental. So there's some really great causes, and we're trying to make a really big impact in the community.
Right. It sounds like there's a bunch of different programs and different organizations in the state of Colorado that really are or really want to help the veteran community, which is awesome. And it's great that, raising money to help them. What are some example events before we get into the Ruck March and talk about that? What are some sample events? I know you mentioned parade and stuff like that. What are some sample events that your program or project normally hold throughout the course of, say, like a year or 2 years?
Well, it all started with the Veterans Day run. So our founder, Rob Bingham, who was he was, a cadet and officer training. He was, this was kind of his, I guess, project in OCS, going through and putting on this run. And, he really just put it on just as a project, for his candidate school, but it became something much more. He quickly realized that it was a great way to bring people together, and it was a very much needed piece within the veterans ecosystem here in Colorado. The Veterans Day Parade, at that point in time, the group that had organized and run and put on the event in Denver actually was kind of done with it. They'd done it for many, many years, and so we assumed the responsibility of putting on the Veterans Day Parade and Festival. And we've really done a nice job building it back up. I think it's the second or third largest veterans festival in the United States, now. So it's really a nice thing to see everybody, more than 50,000 people come downtown in downtown Denver, watch a huge parade and hang out and, drink a couple beers and eat some hot dogs or whatnot after the parade's over, just to again mix and mingle with the veterans in our state and get to know more about them.
Yeah, for sure. Now talk a little bit about the Ruck March that's coming up. It's literally a month away, a little over a month away. Just talk about what it is, what's going to be going on. You can also, if you want to, talk about how the project kind of set up to the Ruck March also. Just you can say as much details as you want about it.
The Memorial Day Run and March is an event that's going on, I think it's 6 years. We originally started it as a 5K, 10K, and 30K race, and it became a 30K ruck as well. So for those that aren't familiar with the terminology of rucking, it's, in our particular case, you put 25 pounds of perishable food in a backpack, and then you march the 30 kilometers or run. If you like to run 30 kilometers with 25 pounds on your back, you could do that too. And at the end of the ruck, you donate all the food. So that's where we get the food donation, the primary food donations from is, and how we're able to get over 50,000 pounds of food donated each year. So it's a really cool event. A lot of the Army units, we do this, we host it in Colorado Springs now. This will be our first year in Colorado Springs. there's a Fort Carson down there. There's the Air Force Academy. I mean, there's Buckley Air Force Base. So there's a huge military community in Colorado Springs. We get a lot of those units that they typically have to do some type of ruck each year just to stay qualified or just complete for part of their Army standards. This is a nice one because we've got it certified by a group out of Norway, so you actually get a Norwegian foot march badge, which is a very cool little medal that you can wear with your military uniforms. It's part of your military record at the end of the day. It's certified by some officers that we fly out from the Norwegian military, and it's just a really fun event. Everybody, we have different distances. So if you're not up for a 30K ruck, you can always just do a 5K or a 10K, with 25 pounds on your back, or just do a 5K, 10K run as well. It is a virtual race. Last year we had to go virtual because of COVID and all that stuff. So we're going to maintain that virtual component. So people around the country, if they want to participate and do any of the distances, whether ruck or run, they can. The only difference is if you want to actually earn the medal, you have to be in person in Colorado because it has to be certified by this Norwegian officer that's coming over to monitor the race and the march. But in a typical year, we'd have more music and we'd have more food vendors. This year, the actual home base is going to be a little bit smaller, a few less vendors. We're trying to limit the amount of the crowd that's actually, just hanging out and mingling after the race and whatnot. But in normal years, we'll have some live music. We'll have a bunch of great food trucks for everybody to come and enjoy food. That'll just, the food and the social aspect of this year's race will just be a bit limited still, just because we want to try to be as safe with COVID as we possibly can.
Right. So question, because since I signed up for the 10K, actually two questions. The first one, when you load your pack up with food, that's food, say for example, I would go out and buy and then weigh it and then bring it.
Yep.
Okay.
And we weigh everybody's pack at the end. We weigh your pack at the end to see how much food you've carried for the race.
Okay.
So you do, again, not for the 10K, but if you're doing the 30K ruck for the Norwegian foot march medal, you have to carry at least 25 pounds. So you want to make sure your pack's not a 24 pounds and you just went all that way for no reason. So.
And for the medal aspect, is it only open for say for example the Army, because I know the Army's big on the medal things, or it's for every branch? Because it was for every branch. I'm kind of tempted to switch, and I want to get that little thing that no one else has.
I think it's a DoD sponsored piece. So I think you were Air Force, if you were Army, or you were Navy, you could go ahead and qualify for that medal, just within your own military record in the Navy too.
That's very tempting because I want to.
It would be really unique.
Stand out. There'll be
not a lot of people in their dress blues are sitting out there with the Norwegian foot march.
Yeah, they'll be like, "How'd you get this?" Well, I'm like, well, long story. It's a bit of a story, but I'll tell you. That's nice to know, because now I'm tempted to do that instead. And I'm always open for a challenge, anyways. So that's cool. Now, so you said last year that you guys had to go virtual because of COVID. Was there still like a big turnout for the event for virtual, or do you think that this year, since it's back in person, there's going to be a bigger turnout this year?
The numbers are certainly trending to be less than a normal year. We'll have a better attendance than we did last year. We really had it was just virtual last year, so it wasn't, we didn't have a lot of registrations. It was later on in the year. I think people were tired of signing up for virtual runs, honestly, and it just wasn't as well received in a virtual format. This is a much better in-person event, and being able to qualify for the medal and whatnot. So, it's going to be a down year this year, but it'll be a nice, it will be it'll be our first opportunity to have an in-person event since COVID, and it'll be a nice opportunity to kind of get back in the swing of things. And even though it'll be a smaller event, it'll be great to see everybody and get back on track to having in-person events.
Has the whole project as a whole has been, you said that you just said the event last year kind of was affected by COVID. Was there any other aspects that have been affected, or the project as a whole was still able to help raise money for all the different foundations and stuff?
It was absolutely a down year for us. It was an interesting piece because with COVID, you had more need in the veterans community than ever before. I mean, people that are food insecure or on the brink of homelessness. I mean, it generally a lot. Sometimes the catalyst to becoming homeless is simply like losing a job or transitioning out of the military and not being able to go apply for jobs or get a new job. People that are just a family member loses a job and they don't have enough money to buy all the groceries they need. So there's been some pretty significant, there's been some pretty significant impact over the last year with the quarantines. Mental health has been a big issue in the veterans community. I mean, the individuals that were struggling with whatever mental health issues, and then just the isolation of being, in lockdown for months at a time. It was not the best combination. So, from a needs perspective, we had more need than ever, but then we weren't able to host the events like we normally would. We weren't able to host a single in-person event last year. Everything was virtual 100%. And that just affected our revenue that we generated from the events. Even though our costs were somewhat lower, we still had, we still just didn't have the participation or the sponsorships. That's where we get a lot of our money. We did have a few organizations like Charles Schwab step up last year. They, increased their donations significantly to us, and we were able to take that money and donate it to a lot of good nonprofits. A lot of individuals stepped up and donated a ton of money to us last year. So while our events revenue was down, we still were able to donate, I think, over $50,000 out to nonprofits throughout the state of Colorado in 2019 or 2020.
What are some, because I'm curious, what are some organizations that actually helped you guys last year through donations and stuff? Was there like a lot of big names, or there was some small names, or even some that were like unexpected, like, oh, like this is the most random thing, but they wanted to help us, so here they are?
Yeah, so Charles Schwab was a great partner for us last year. They really did a lot to help our organization stay above water and continue to support us through a rough year. A lot of our traditional sponsors, they just really held back until more the end of the year. We got a donation from the Glenn Levitt last year. They sponsored us for, I think they did $1 a bottle or something like that for every bottle that was sold in Colorado, and we got a $10,000 donation from the Glenn Levitt. So that was a wonderful thing, and a great company to work with. But it was probably the biggest chunk of revenue we got were just from individuals that just realized that there was more needs in the veteran community than ever before. We have a media partner, Fox 31, that's just always done a great job of helping make the Colorado community aware of what's going on in the veterans community and the needs of that community, and they were able to help us spread the word about that, and we got a lot of great individual donations.
That's awesome. I mean, it sucks for the project because, like you said, you can do in-person events, but it's also great to see that people saw that, the state of the world and everything that was going on, that they took it as an opportunity to actually step up and help what you guys are working towards and who you guys support. So that's really great. Now for the event next month, is there already like a lot of registration that's come in? Like, is there a lot of people that are pumped up and excited to come out? Because I know for myself, I'm excited to come out and do this thing.
So right now we have, just over 300 people registered for the Memorial Day run in March.
Mm-hmm.
We're thinking that there'll probably end up being between 400 and 500 people, unless we get a good boost of people here at the end. I mean, Colorado just opened up quite a bit, saying that there's no longer any restrictions for outdoor events as far as the number of people. You still have to follow, best practices from a COVID perspective, for sure. And we will be a COVID safe environment and do all the things that we can to keep all of our runners safe and all of our volunteers and everybody else for that matter. But we really feel like 400 or 500 people at this year's event would be a great success. It'd be great to be in person again and get to see everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm super excited to come. I know like a few weeks ago, we actually went because baseball season started, went to a baseball game, and it felt so nice, even though, everyone was social distancing and there was only like 25% capacity in the stadium. It was still nice to still go out and do something. So I'm super excited to come and do the Ruck March. And like I said, I might be switching up which one I'm doing, because I kind of want that unique badge on my uniform, or to add that to, my eval at the end of the year when they look at it like, oh yeah. But that's not what, that's just a back thing. We're here to help you guys and help spread the word with our resources that we have and stuff. So before we close out this podcast, we always ask our guests, whether it be for something like this, talking about the organization, or just a regular podcast guest, we always ask them what you have planned for the rest of 2021, both either like say personally, professionally, because you said you have a professional career outside of the project, so that too, and also too, you announced like what else the Colorado Veterans Program has planned, or project has planned for the rest of the year, so we can kind of put out the word for you guys. So,
well, we have multiple events each year. The best way to track our events is go to coloradoveteransproject.org. It has a listing. It has links to all of our events. This year we'll host the Memorial Day run in March. That's May 29th. We'll host the Freedom 4-miler. That's going to be a virtual event again this year, because our corporate partner in that event is Charles Schwab, and they still haven't opened back up some of their corporate campuses just because of COVID and safety protocols that they have in place as a corporation. So unfortunately, we can't have the event in person at their. Usually we have it down at their Lone Tree campus, which is this beautiful campus in Lone Tree, Colorado. So that'll just be a virtual event. It'll just take place just in the days before and the days of 4th of July weekend. So that's a 5K. That's a 4-mile race, as the name would indicate, and you can just join in on that virtually. We'll have another golf tournament coming up in Denver, Colorado, in September. We also will, host the Veterans Day festivities this year. Hopefully we'll be able to do a parade, but it just really depends on what COVID numbers look like and COVID safety protocols and health recommendations are again this year. Obviously, we have some older men and women that are Korea War era veterans or Vietnam era war veterans, and we want to just make sure we're doing the utmost and providing a very safe environment for those guys. Even though we want to celebrate them and honor them for Veterans Day, we want to make sure everything is safe and secure too. But we will host our Veterans Day run again in November. And that'll really round out the year, other than some donation days that we typically do around Colorado Gives Day or Giving Tuesday, and just individual donations that come throughout the year to support our organization.
that's awesome. I actually thought of another question before I asked the last one.
Sure,
have you ever met, since you've been involved, have you ever like personally met any veterans that the project has helped, and see their reaction to like everything that either you guys are doing or any of the other foundations and nonprofits that your project has helped as well, see their reaction and kind of, see, I guess, their gratitude that they have for you guys. Have you ever met anyone in person before?
And we had a cool thing that we were able to do at the Freedom 4 Miler the year before last. We gave away a car. So in partnership with Geico and one of the collision centers here in Denver, they basically took a car that had been in an accident and just completely, I think it was Caliber Collisions that did the work on it here in Denver. And I mean, it looked perfect and brand new when they were done with it. There was a veteran. He was a Desert Storm. He served in Desert Storm. He'd been shot, wounded in his back, had a lot of back issues, and for whatever reason had gotten reinfected. So here's a guy who's trying to work. He's trying to support his family, and a combat injury comes back and causes him more trouble. He has to stop working for about 6 months, and he finally gets back on his feet. But during that process of being out of work for 6 months, he had to sell his car. Mm-hmm. So he was literally just out of back surgery, still in a back brace, and he was sitting on the bus like for 45 minutes to an hour each way every day. So here's a guy that's on a bus for an hour and a half. He's not looking for any handouts. He didn't even ask for the car. I think somebody else recommended that we consider him. And when we gave him that car, to see this individual who's trying so hard to get back up on his feet, and now he doesn't have to ride a bus an hour and a half each way every day, or the smile on his face when he was driving that car off the lot was just, it was priceless. It was it made me feel really good, made me feel really proud of the organization and all the direct impacts we've had on individuals.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you guys were actually able to help him out, because I mean, I know a lot of friends, especially because, we wear our gear all the time, not as much as other jobs, but I think Navy specific, we always have our vest-ons and our, not me, because I didn't really carry one, but rifles and stuff. And some of my friends have had back issues, of course, not as much as him, but still, like, back, as soon as your back is out, like, you can't, that's your whole base. Like, you can't do anything. And just sitting on a bus or something, like, I bet that guy's reaction was like super amazing, super rewarding. And that's like what it's all about. It's just it could be as simple as, the car, more like housing and everything that you guys do, which is awesome. And that's what we want to, help put across, that, you don't have to do something super crazy. Just make a donation or do a virtual event. And even that little bit can make the biggest impact. And I think what you guys are doing is really cool and awesome. And I'm super excited. My family will be coming out. I'm going to be doing the Ruck March. Like I said, I might be changing it up, but I'm going to be doing it and everything. And before we close out, do you have any, like I said, we asked this for all our guests, do you have any personal or professional goals that you have for the rest of 2021 on top of all the different events that you guys have planned for the project?
Personally, it's going to be nice. We had a really nice day here in Denver today. It was just, went to met some friends at the park. So it's just going to be nice to slowly kind of transition back into doing some normal things again, and really just reconnecting with some friends and family that we've been really limited in seeing over this last year. So I think for me personally, that's going to be a big thing for me, is just I'm looking forward to reconnecting with a lot of wonderful people that I've run into, throughout the years, and, having a beer, or, eating a steak, whatever it happens. It'll be just really nice to be able to, be more social this year, for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree with that too. So while we close out, can you let everyone know where they can find the information for the project, the website, where they can donate, get involved, all the stuff? Let us know where we can find the project at.
So our main site is the best resource. Again, it's coloradoveteransproject.org. It has links to all of our in-person and virtual events on that site. It also has links to our donation pages, so you can make donations right there on our website. For specific information about the Memorial Day, the website is memorialdaymarch.com. and that has the registration information and all of the the routes, sorry, and just how you can get involved if you want to volunteer for that day. You want to register for our virtual event. Maybe you live in Texas and you want to participate in a virtual ruck in Texas and get a bunch of friends together down there to do it. All that information is available at memorialdaymarch.com.
Awesome. Like I said, I'm super excited to come in person. Hopefully to actually meet you in person as well, not just behind like a camera screen or something.
Sure.
So that would be awesome too. And
Absolutely.
and just, help spread the word and help you guys, spread the word and help as much as we possibly can. And for all our listeners, I'll include the links down below so you guys can go ahead and click on it and check out the website and donate and sign up or do whatever, do your part and help out. And that's it for this podcast. Todd, thank you for being on and talking about not only your career and your involvement, but also about the project and what you guys are working on. I'm Danielle Minetti, and I will see you guys next time.